Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're unpacking something that's honestly one of the most elegant, fundamental tools in all of economics. I'm talking about the production possibility curve, or the PPC. You can basically think of this as the ultimate blueprint for how societies, literally from ancient empires all the way to modern superpowers, navigate their strictly limited resources to build wealth. Now, before we even think about touching any math or charts, we really need to start with a deeply relatable question. Why can't an economy just produce endless amounts of everything? Seriously, why not infinite housing, perfect healthcare, and limitless food for everyone? Well, it's simply because we live in a world that is strictly governed by limits. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the problem of scarcity, move right along to the rules of the PPC, and then reading the graph. After that, we'll hit the cost of choices, shifting the curve, and finally wrap it up with why it matters. All right, part one, the problem of scarcity. This is the absolute core economic problem. So the production possibility curve is essentially our visual map here. It shows us the absolute maximum combinations of two goods that an economy can efficiently produce. It brilliantly illustrates that ultimate, constant tension between our perfectly unlimited human desires and, well, our strictly limited resources. Moving to Section 2, Rules of the PPC. Let's set the ground rules.
Right, so to make this model actually work, we rely on 5 simplifying assumptions. First up, only 2 goods. Think of the classic guns versus butter scenario. Second, fixed resources. There are no magic wands you can wave to add new factories overnight. Third, constant technology. Fourth, full utilization, which means literally 0 wasted resources and 0 unemployment. And fifth, specialized resources. You know, a tractor factory can't just instantly start performing heart surgeries, right?
Section 3, reading the graph and visualizing our possibilities. Now, what's really interesting here is how this curve physically maps out what a society can actually achieve. That blue curve bowing outward, that's our safe zone. Any point resting right on that line, like point A, represents total efficiency. But if you look inside the curve at point D, that's our danger zone. That signifies inefficiency, unemployment. Basically, factories are closed and potential's completely wasted. And way out there at that red point E, yeah, that's the dream zone. With our current resources, it's just completely unattainable. Okay, Section 4, the cost of choices and the friction of decisions. Because of this inescapable scarcity, every single choice carries an opportunity cost. And that is simply the value of the next best alternative you absolutely must sacrifice when a choice is made. For instance, if a nation mobilizes for defense and starts building tanks, the true cost isn't just the monetary budget, it's the hospitals, the homes, and the schools that those exact same steel beams and laborers could have built instead. Let's track how this cost actually plays out. If we move from combination A to B, gaining 10 cars costs us just 5 tons of wheat. Okay, not too bad. But as we push for more and more cars, the friction absolutely skyrockets. Moving to D costs 15 tons, and that final desperate push to E costs a massive 20 tons of wheat. This right here is the law of increasing opportunity cost in action. You're dragging your best farmers out of the fields, forcing them onto assembly lines, and you end up sacrificing more and more just to get less and less. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly why the curve is shaped the way it is. The standard, real-world concave PPC bows outwards specifically because of that resource specialization we just talked about. On the flip side, a straight-line PPC assumes a total fantasy world where a farmer is perfectly interchangeable with an auto mechanic, keeping the costs constantly the same. But as we know, reality is always concave. All right, Section 5, shifting the curve. Let's look at changing capabilities. Let's move along and see how this builds. Because the PPC is absolutely not a permanent prison. The boundary of what's possible can actually shift. See that green line PPC2? That is an outward shift. That represents real economic growth. Suddenly, the impossible actually becomes attainable. But rather ominously, the red line, PPC3, shows an inward collapse, which is when an economy's capacity drastically shrinks. So what actually triggers these shifts? Well, outward shifts are usually unlocked by major breakthroughs. Think about how the internet revolution, or maybe the discovery of massive new energy reserves, drastically expanded our global capacity. Inward shifts, however, are caused by destructive forces. Things like a global pandemic, severely disrupting supply chains, devastating natural disasters, or wars that just completely decimate a country's infrastructure. Finally, Section 6, why it matters. Let's talk real-world decisions. You see, governments and major corporations use this exact framework every single day to guide their resource allocation. It dictates whether billions of dollars go into high-speed rail networks or into healthcare systems. It helps quantify the devastating, often hidden cost of unemployment when factories are just sitting idle inside the curve. And it drives the technological policies required to push the very frontier of human living standards outward. So, the crucial point here is that the PPC isn't just some dry academic exercise. It's basically a mirror held right up to human endeavor. So I want you to ask yourself, where is your country currently operating on its own curve? Is it pushing boundaries out on the cutting edge, wasting potential stuck inside the curve, or aggressively investing to reach that next frontier? Next time you watch the news, remember to ask yourself, what is the true cost of our societal choices? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. I'll catch you next time.